What is up, guys? It's Mega Man Chief Fan here. Welcome back to another comic book review. Now today, I'm going to review one of my all-time favorite Batman stories. And that is The Long Halloween. Now, I actually own The Long Halloween, and I've actually read it twice. So, I really like this book. And let me tell you, this is going to be a heavily positive review. Now, anyway, you know what's coming up next. It's premise time! Now, the premise of the story is this is pretty much, the way you describe this book is pretty much Batman Year 1. If Batman Year 1 was Batman, the first year of Batman, then this would be Batman Years 2 and 3. And it pretty much introduces, it's pretty much the first encounters of pretty much all the main Batman villains. But the main villain that's focused on the most in this book is Two-Face, aka Harvey Dent. And it just goes through the year of Batman and between Halloweens, and it's a pretty, and like it said, it's a long Halloween. And really, that's it. It's not that much of a premise, but really, not many superhero books has a really large, open premise. It's usually just, this character gets in this situation, stuff happens. And that's pretty much what this is as well, but there's so many things going on at the same time that I can't even start to explain. There's a whole mafia family called the Falcones, which, get resolved in, actually, that's a spoiler. It's actually a pretty big spoiler, but, let's just say stuff happens to them. Really messed up stuff happens to them. And then the Joker pretty much goes on a holiday crusade after he escapes the prison. Scarecrow comes in riding on a horse. A horse that I thought that was so awesome. Poison Ivy just walks on to someone's balcony and seduces them, and that's awesome as well. I really like Poison Ivy, but it's pretty much, they utilize these characters to the fullest. And now, we've gotten to this part of the review, the positives. Tons, and I mean tons of positives. And I mean, this is amazing when it comes to positives. First off, the characters. I'm not going to really talk about the characters themselves because everybody knows it. Batman, Commissioner Gordon, the Joker, Two-Face, etc. But it's the way you handle these characters for superhero books that really works. And Batman The Long Halloween works this perfectly. Like, seriously, this is one of the most well-handled superhero comics I've ever read in my entire life. It's really well written. It just brings such a charm that you know and love for Batman. Jeff Loeb does an incredible job telling a tale, and he doesn't make it look too epic. It is a pretty epic story, but it doesn't make it look over dramatic. It's not pretentious in the slightest, and that I can applaud it for, because a lot of comics and a lot of graphic novels in general, including manga as well, they tend to be a little bit pretentious. They kind of try to get full of themselves, but The Long Halloween, or at least, in fact, almost everything I've read from Jeff Loeb has been great. Like, I've read Spider-Man Blue, and that was fantastic. I read Daredevil Yellow. I should really complete that. I know it's a short series, but that's been great so far. I really want to read the other two Jeff Loeb Tim Sale Batman books. I've not read the other two yet, and I really want to. So, enough with the characters. No, that wasn't the... What? I'm so clogged up in memory. I'm just like, I don't even know what happened like a few minutes ago. I am off track. Now, let's talk about a key part of the story, the art. This art is incredible. Some of the best I've ever seen in comics. Tim Sale has quickly become one of my favorite comic book artists, and his style is simple yet beautiful, and I love that. And this is And this isn't an indie comic. This is a DC comic book. And usually with superhero comic books, they try to make it all realistic as possible. But something I appreciate about Tim Sale, and this isn't just this book. They do it for the Marvel Color series. They do it for the other two Jeff Loeb Tim Sale books, Batman books. They do it for Superman for All Seasons. This team is great together, and Tim Sale is just the other half of the cake. He's just he's the second half of the body. He pretty much draws what. Okay, that is pathetic. I was about to say he draws what the author tells him to, and I'm like, that's obvious. But anyway, he tries his hardest. Like, you can see that he put a lot of effort into this book, and I mean a lot of effort. Like, he put his as much time as possible to get into this book. Like, I could tell he could, like, I can just imagine him sitting in his desk, drawing, trying to add as much detail to the simple artwork as possible. And I know that kind of seems weird for simple artwork, but there is quite a bit of detail, especially in the shadows. The shadows are amazing, and I can really, really see the amount of detail he puts on the shadows, and it's just great. And the story is phenomenal. Really, the story is just great. It's pretty much Batman's second and third year. It's really well done, and I can safely say I really, really enjoyed this book. However, even though this book is absolutely fantastic, there is one problem I have with it. And it's not a major problem. In fact, it would have been a major problem if it did it horribly wrong, but luckily it didn't. It just kind of had its issues here and there, and that was the pacing. It's kind of sloppily paced, and the beginning is really fast-paced. Around, like, issues 8 through 11 are kind of slow-paced, but then the last two issues are so sudden and intense, you just sit down and just invest yourself, and you can imagine yourself there, and it's so well done. But there were a few weaker issues than others, and that just kind of annoys me now and then, because this would have been a flawless book if it wasn't for the pacing. But man, the beginning 7 issues were so good, and the last 2 issues were so great. The ending of this series is phenomenal, and I won't dare spoil it. But issues 8 and 11, they just kind of analyze on how Harvey Dent became Two-Face, and it just kind of drags on for a little bit, and I'm just kind of like sitting there like, okay, I remember the good parts. Let's get to the good parts. And luckily, The Long Halloween has a lot of that. So, on to the score. Originally, I was going to give this an 8 out of 10 because I remembered reading it and thinking it deserved the hype, but nothing. But I didn't really enjoy it as much as some other people did. After rereading it, after having a better knowledge of Batman, because I read this earlier in my Batman reading career, and after reading this around almost a year later, I can safely say it was definitely much more enjoyable now than it was the first time I read it. And it's mainly because of my new knowledge of Batman, but I feel like this is a much better book if you have a better knowledge of Batman and know what you're getting into. But still, even though you have to have some knowledge of Batman, I can still safely give it a 9 out of 10, recommending you to buy this book. I paid retail for this book, and it's pretty expensive for retail, but even though it's a thick book, it's $25, and for one book, that's really expensive. I've seen a lot thicker books than this go for less, even. Like Watchmen is less pages than this. I think Watchmen's about like a few pages longer than that, and that's $20 retail. This is about like I think this is around like 400, and Watchmen's like 410. But yeah, but that cannot stop me. I even paid retail for this book. It's an excellent book. and I highly recommend it to anybody who's a fan of superheroes. Even if you're a Marvel person, I still recommend this book. So that was Batman The Long Halloween. I hope you guys enjoy, and comment down below what you guys thought of this book, because I really want to know what you guys thought about this book. But anyway, I'm not going to ramble anymore. I'm Mega Man Chief Fan, and I'll see you later, guys.